Welcome to Impact Evangelism, the YouTube channel that's all about evangelism. So if you're interested in evangelism, this is the channel for you. And this is our series, The Never-Ending Stories of Evangelism. These stories are simply testimonials, stories that are designed to encourage you and inspire you to tell people about Jesus, the life-saving message that Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the second person of the Trinity, left his throne in heaven, died on a cross for the sins of mankind, and rose again the third day. And whoever repents and puts their trust in him as Lord and Savior will have forgiveness and will have everlasting life. That is the life-giving message that God has entrusted us, the church, to proclaim through the world. And so these are stories about those evangelism encounters. And the one I want to tell you today about is a special one for me. This story goes back to 2014. And I worked at my local church as the missions leader. I was like the chairman of the missions committee. And what our church did is we sent out missionaries all over the world. We were a small little church, but we supported a lot of missionaries and took the gospel out to the world. And my job as a missions chair, it was to organize a missions conference. And so what I did is I called all of our missionaries, whether, by letter or phone. I got them all together and I scheduled this meeting and I planned it all out and set up hotel reservations for everyone and payments for everyone. Had all that stuff lined out. And then the day comes where we have our missions conference. And it lasts 2 or 3 days. We have these missionaries in from all over the world. And there's a couple of missionaries that showed up that our church supported that I really hit it off with. I really had a connection with. And that was Tommy Tillman and Mitch Tillman of Harbor Evangelism. Tommy Tillman has recently passed away, but he started many ministries all over the world in Central America and in Korea and in Mongolia. And Mitch, his son, currently served in the country of Mongolia. And so we hit it off real well, and after the missions conference, Tommy actually sent me a letter and invited me to Mongolia. The tickets were paid for, and all we had to do was, pay for our hotel and things like that, food. And so, I was so excited. He gave us 2 plane tickets free. And my daughter, Darian, always was interested in mission work, so we took this trip to Mongolia. And before the trip started, I was calling Mitch and asking him all kinds of questions about travel, because I'd never been on a plane before. Maybe when I was a small child, I rode on a plane, but I don't remember it. And so, it was international travel too. It was like we were flying out from Birmingham, Alabama, to Chicago, Illinois, to Beijing, China, and then on to Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. And so I didn't, where to go, what airport, what do I expect in all these airports. So I was asking him tons of questions. I know Mitch got tired of answering all these questions, but I was, really anxious about flying. And he said, well, when you get to China, when you get to the China airport, he said, don't leave the airport. He said, do not leave the airport. Because once you leave that airport, it's not a safe zone. In other words, as long as you're inside of that airport, you can't be arrested, thrown in jail, and something happened to you. But you see, as you probably know, China is a communist country, and it's illegal to be a Christian. There's plenty of Christians in China, but the government doesn't like it, and they crack down on it and throw pastors in jail, and you know the stories. So that stuff's running through my head. So all that's running through my head before we start this trip is do not leave the airport. It's like a neon sign flashing in my brain, right? Do not leave the airport. So the day finally comes. We raise enough money to go on this trip, and we show up at the ticket counter early in the morning in Birmingham. It's like 6 in the morning, And the first thing we find out is our flight is delayed. I mean, it was the first thing that happened. Your flight from Chicago to Beijing is delayed because of maintenance or whatever it was. I think it was maintenance. So the whole trip is starting off. We don't know what to do. I said, well, can we change the tickets? Can we do this? Can we do that? Because I didn't know how long it was going to be delayed, and they didn't really know how long it was going to be delayed either. And, you know, after years of doing mission work, I know that's par for the course. I mean, you get your itinerary from the airport or your airlines, and it's all going to change. I mean, you look at the times and all this stuff, you know, it's going to change eventually. Something's going to get delayed. Something's going to happen, right? But I didn't know that. So I'm like, what do we do? What do we do? So we couldn't change the ticket, so we just get on our plane, fly from Birmingham to Chicago, and we sit and we wait and we wait and we wait. And we wait and we wait and wait. Well, you know, we have this long layover. It's like a 3-hour layover scheduled, and it ended up being like 7-hour layover. And so we finally leave Chicago and we fly into Beijing, and that's like a 14-hour trip from something like that, 12, 14 hours. And so we finally are flying into the airport in Beijing. And Beijing Airport at the time was one of the largest in the world and one of the busiest in Asia, if not the busiest in Asia at that particular time. And so, it's a big, huge airport, and we come flying in and it's storming. And it's the planes bouncing around. We have our seatbelts. So if we didn't have our seatbelts on, we would have bounced up out of our seats. That's how bad the turbulence was, because it was storming outside. We could see the lightning crashing and the wind blowing the rain. It was sideways, So we'd never flown on a plane, so we're a little nervous already. So the plane's bouncing around, and it circles the airport a couple of times because it's not safe to land yet till the winds die down. And so finally, after circling the airport a while, we come in and we land. And we come down the ramp, and this lady standing there with everybody's name from that flight that's going to stay over. And we look at the list, and there's our name. And so nobody speaks English, by the way. The lady didn't speak English. And so she just kind of points this way. So we just follow the crowd, right? We don't know where to go. So we're just following the crowd. We follow the crowd to a train, like a subway train. And we get on this train, and it takes us all over the place. And we don't really know where we're going. We don't have where the gate is, any of that stuff. So we finally get off the train, and we kind of follow the crowd around and we get out into this Terminal 3 in Beijing Airport. And it is huge. It's really pretty, really nice to look at. People running around everywhere, right? But it's huge. And it was the middle of the night, and there was just tons of people. And we still didn't know where to go. And our flight was delayed, and we don't know when we're going to leave. We don't even know when we're going to, if it's going to be the next day, 2 weeks from now. We don't know. So we're wandering around the airport looking for a gate. So, what do we do? Where's the gate? We had none of this. And we go and we walk up to the employees, and we start talking, and they hold up their hands just like this. None of them speak English. And so we're just wandering around the airport for, it seemed like for hours, just looking for where we should go. And we're being followed by security. Like there's the security guards. You can tell they're security. I mean, they don't have guns or anything, but they have these little earpieces, right? And you can see them doing like this. And so they're talking to somebody, some boss somewhere saying, okay, what are they doing now? We can just imagine what's going on. Now, keep in mind, China's a communist country, right? And we're missionaries. We've got Bibles on us and tracts on us, and we're thinking, man, if we get arrested here, who knows what? But we kept in mind, Mitch said, do not leave the airport, right? So that's what was going through our mind. If we just stay here, we're fine. And so we're wandering around the airport, and we see our luggage sitting on a rack in the middle of the airport, not guarded, right? Hundreds of people walking around everywhere, and here's our luggage just sitting there on a rack. And I'm thinking, what in the world? So we dig out our luggage, and then we're hauling our luggage all over the airport, right? And we didn't pack light. We should have, but we didn't. So we're dragging this stuff all over the airport. And we get so tired, man, we just don't know what to do. And these guys are still following us around, and Nobody still speaks English. And so we finally think we found where we buy our tickets, right? So, of course, it's closed. It's the middle of the night. And so there's like just a few benches in that whole big, huge airport. And of course, they're filled. And so we were so tired, man. And so we decided just to spend the night there in the airport. And there were no benches to lay on. So we pull out our luggage, and we're going to sleep on our luggage, and this guy walks up to us. And he said, "You must leave the airport." Yeah, you must leave the airport. First guy in the whole place that speaks English, right? And he's official. He's got his hat on. He's, I don't know, security or something. Who knows? But he said, "You must leave the airport." And we're like, "We can't leave the airport." Mitch said, we didn't tell him this, but the "do not leave the airport" was flashing through my brain, right? So this is flashing through my brain. Do not leave the airport. And this guy's saying, with the official stuff on, "You must leave the airport." So we didn't know what to do. So we were so tired, and we look at the guy and said, what do you mean leave the airport? And so they have a hotel for us, and it's a hotel we can stay at. And of course, our shuttle's already run, hours ago, they shuttled everybody off that was on that flight to hotels, right? But we didn't know. It's the first time flying. We missed our shuttle. So he gave us this card of the hotel, right? And so we walk out in the street, and it's still storming, still raining, and we call it a taxi cab in Beijing, China, right there in the middle of Beijing. And, of course, the cab driver doesn't speak English, and he drives up, and I just hand him the card, and he looks at me and shakes his head. So we go through these winding roads. There's traffic everywhere, and it's still storming and raining. We're tired, and we get to the hotel, and we crash, and we sleep for a couple hours, and we find out that our tickets our flight has been rescheduled for the next day. So that's not too bad. So we get some good news. And this is a nice hotel in this. It was right in the middle of a community there in China, in Beijing. And so we get up early in the morning, and we go back to the airport. And we got a long time to wait. We wanted to get there early to make sure we got in line to get our tickets. We didn't want to be in a rush, so we got some time to spare. So we're walking around, and it's a nice airport, man. I'm telling you. I got some pictures to show you during this video, so be on the lookout. And so we take a few pictures, and we're still dog tired, right? And so we're really tired, and there's no place to sit, right? I mean, there's a couple of benches in the whole place. We're tired. We're worn out. And so we just stand by a bench, hoping somebody gets up and moves, right? And so there's this bench there. And we're standing and standing and standing. And I have a illness called dysautonomia. And I don't want to explain it all here, but all that, I'm twice as tired as a normal person. I'm twice as give out, from exhaustion as a normal person with the thing I have, right? You can look it up yourself and see what dysautonomia is all about. So, I'm tired in this, and all these things are running through my mind like, why am I here? Really, when I had a few seconds to think, and everything was, got still a little bit. We weren't rushing around, and I'm thinking, why am I here? I'm here exhausted, fixing to pass out in the middle of China, and I'm just thinking to myself, what in the world happens if I fall out and crack my head open, and right here in the middle of Beijing, nobody speaks English. What are they going to do with me? Do they take me off to the hospital? Will I miss my trip? All these things are running through my brain. I'm thinking, should I be here? I'm thinking to myself, why should I be here? I mean, is this something I wanted to do, or is it a door that God opened for me? So I'm questioning all that. I've been preaching, at this point I've been preaching for a long time, and sharing the gospel and things like that. I've been an evangelist. And I thought, man, this is a great opportunity to go to Mongolia to preach the gospel, right? So I'm sitting there doubting all of that. And somebody gets up, leaves the bench, and I nudge my daughter Darian, and she sits down there on the bench. Finally she gets to sit down, right? So she's tired too. And so we're just sitting there, and waiting and waiting, and then the other guy stands up and he moves. And so, I sit down real fast before anything can happen. So I'm in the middle of this little 3-man bench, and my daughter's on this side, and I have a young gentleman sitting on my right side. And so, we're tired. We're sitting there waiting, and this guy starts to talk to me in perfect English. And he's from China, but he speaks perfect English. And he said, "Hey, are you from America?" And I said, "Yes, I'm from America." And he said, "Are you a preacher?" I looked at him. Then I looked at DJ, and she looked at me in her eyes like this. I said, "Yes. Yeah, come to think of it, I am a preacher." What gave him that idea? I don't know. But hey, he good guess, or I don't know. But he knew I was a preacher, right? So I said, "Yes, I'm a preacher." I said, "We're on our way to Mongolia to, share the gospel." And he looked at me and he said, "My mom's a Christian." I said, "Oh, really?" He said, "Yeah." She said she's been a Christian for many, many years. But in fact, he said, "I'm here to come to her house because she's really sick. She has cancer." And so he flew in from a different part of the country, and he's there to meet his mom, and it doesn't look good. She probably won't, she's stage 4 cancer, and he wants to come visit her. And so we start talking back and forth about life a little bit and things like that. And so he's in a real emotional state as well, because he's there to see his mother who's about to pass away. And so I start talking to him about Jesus, sharing the gospel with him about how Jesus died for his sins and rose again the 3rd day. And he knew the gospel. I mean, he knew what it was. He just it never clicked with him. He had never repented, and he really had no desire to be a Christian, he said, his whole life. He said his mom's been praying for him to get saved for years and years and years. Man, what a faithful testimony his mom has. And so I shared the gospel with him, and he said, "I want to do it." He said, "I want to become a Christian. How do I do that? Help me." And as a missionary, as an evangelist, as a soul winner, right? That's the best word you ever hear. And so I walked him through, how to repent and believe. And he got saved. That young man got saved right there on the bench in Beijing, China. And man, after it was over with, I'm on cloud 9. I'm thinking, why in the world did I ever doubt why I was here? And that was God in control of the whole thing. Listen, man, if we would have made our flight, I never would have gotten to talk to this guy. If our flight hadn't been delayed the exact time that it should have been, and us walking around walking around the airport at lost, not knowing where to go, wasting all that time, and it was all for a purpose. God was in control. He saw what was going to happen. God sees it all, right? So he knew we would be sitting on that bench, and this young man would be sitting on that bench. And he saw fit in his sovereignty to put us together on that bench, on that exact day, in this exact time. And that was October the 10th, 2015. I wrote the date down. So from that time forward, I know God's in control. So if you want to evangelize and tell people about the gospel, sometimes you get overwhelmed and you don't know what to say, you don't know what to do, you don't know where to go, who to talk to. All these things are going through your mind, but as long as you're willing to tell people that Jesus died for their sins and rose again the 3rd day, as long as you're willing to share that story with someone, God will open the doors. God will be in control. And He'll send people through your life that need to hear. They might say no, they might say yes, but trust God. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't take all the burden on yourself. What to do, where to go, all those things. You need to have plans, and you need to plan to do evangelism. I understand that, but you shouldn't worry, shouldn't fret over the circumstances, because God is in control. And He was in control on that mission trip. And we went on and had a great trip, and we did get food poisoning. That's another story, but but anyway, it was a good trip. We had a great time, and I've been a missionary to Mongolia ever since. And I've been on several trips, stayed on long-term trips, months, and short-term trips, 2-3 weeks. And I've seen, man, a bunch of people come to the Lord. And it all started on that bench in Beijing, China. Was the first person I led to the Lord in Asia. It was in China. And I was going to be a missionary to Mongolia, and the first person I lead to the Lord is in China. See, God's in control. You just have to be willing, right? I'm just saying it again. You just have to be willing to go, and He's in control. So, I hope the story's been a blessing to you. So, if you want to make an impact on this world, what are you waiting for? Go out today and share the gospel. And I'll see you next time on the never-ending stories of evangelism.